Hi, my name is David Redekop, and I wanted to really understand the performance difference between legacy DNS versus DNS over HTTPS, especially against some of the biggest names. The issue is that it's difficult to do DNS performance metrics between the various upstream resolvers that are available, especially if you want to compare DOH versus non-DOH. So what I did is I set up on the screen here 3 separate local resolvers that run at various localhost IPs. So over here I have 127.0.0.1 that is actually proxying DNS queries that are going to be forwarded to Cloudflare. So it's going to be forwarded over HTTPS over to Cloudflare. The second one, in the middle one here, is 127.0.0.8, and it's forwarding over to DNS.Google, which is Google's DOH server. And then the third column here, I have 127.0.0.9, which is a DOH proxy that goes over to Quad9's DOH server. And then down below, I'm running MTR against each one of these so that you can see that it's not 100% fair because Google has a disadvantage in terms of ping distance. So in any case, let's take a look at how it works. So as per my blog article, I'm just going to use Steve Gibson's awesome DNS benchmark. I'm going to remove all the name servers first, then I'm going to add an ini file that I created here for myself, which contains these 3 DNS servers, but in both traditional DNS as well as DOH. So the top 3 are traditional DNS and the lowest 3 are DOH queries. And so I'm going to simply run this DNS benchmark and see what we get. And interestingly enough, we see right away that the DOH of Cloudflare, in this particular case, was number 1 at first. Now it's switched over to Cloudflare's non-DOH, and this is a very cool utility because you can see that as time passes that sometimes they swap who's in first place in terms of fastest responses. Your mileage may vary depending on where you're doing these queries to and where you're doing them from, because each one of these DOH servers actually have points of presence around the web in many, many places. So it really does matter what the relative distance is. In this case, we actually have a very interesting result that I don't get very often, where Quad9's DOH server turns out to actually be the fastest, even when we proxy it. So that's this little proxy service here. When we query 127.0.0.9, it was in fact the fastest. But as you can see, then next comes Cloudflare's non-DOH, and then Quad9 non-DOH. And then in 4th place is Google's DOH, followed by Google's traditional DNS. And in last place is Cloudflare's non-DOH, actually happens to be the slowest from this location when comparing these 3 big ones. So when you run this benchmark in your environment, you'll get similar results, most likely, somewhat similar, but also it's not going to be exactly the same for all kinds of reasons. So DNS benchmarking is one of those things that you have to do from the site that's important to you, that you're at, because if you do it anywhere else, you can't transpose those results to where you are. So enjoy. Hopefully this how-to allows you to get that curiosity settled as well.